How's it going, everyone? The PlayStation Store has kicked off its massive holiday sale, and I think some people are going to be a little bit disappointed by the fact that, some of the game deals, maybe titles are a little bit too expensive. You don't want to spend $35 on AC Mirage. You don't want to spend $49 on MW3 for whatever reason if you're trying to pick that up. However, I feel like there's a lot of quantity and options in terms of the games available, and there's certainly stuff you can find. I want to highlight some of the deals under $5. Let's just get right into it, and let's start things off with Yakuza 0, 75% off for $4.99. The game was available on PlayStation Plus Extra a while ago, got pulled from that. This is a good starting point for the Yakuza titles. Obviously, this is probably where you want to start, a prequel to Yakuza 1, and Yakuza 0 really gets the ball rolling on the story of one Kazuma Kiryu. Now, the RGG titles are definitely gaining a lot of buzz, a lot of interest. It seems like after their consecutive successes with games like Yakuza Like a Dragon, Judgment, Lost Judgment, and the general reception of those games, I feel like there's an outside audience that has taken interest into what RGG offers, but let's be real, with all of their outings, it's a daunting lineup of games to get into. Yakuza 0 is a great starting point. I often talk about Judgment being where I think a lot of people should start. That's because Judgment is a part of a series that only has 2 games, and Judgment in its own right tells a self-contained story. It's a game built for the PS4, and it has English voiceovers where Yakuza 0 does not have that. I know some of you guys are like, that's blasphemy, you would even say to play these games with English voiceovers, but it does make it more accessible to a different audience. But Yakuza 0 is still a really good starting point, great story, great main character, soundtrack is tremendous, so many over-the-top moments, and Yakuza does a great job of offering varied content. So while these games are content-filled, the thing is, there's a lot of different activities to do that offer a different style of play, which I think will keep the game engaging the whole way through. No matter, though, I would highly recommend you to not go from RGG game to RGG game back to back to back to back to back. Like, if you want to get into Yakuza, play Yakuza 0, maybe play Kiwami, take a break for a while, then go and play Kiwami 2, Kiwami 3. I'm sure there's some people that are absolutely insane that can go back to back to back to back, but if you go back to back, you're just gonna burn yourself out, in my opinion, and that'll probably make the franchise lose a little bit of luster for you. Like, play these games, but play them at a solid pace where you're not going through all the games at once, because that's just too difficult in my opinion. But that's my 2 cents, rant over. I know a lot of people are excited for Infinite Wealth. I know there's interest in people getting into the series. Just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. Next up, we have Titanfall 2, 80% off for $3.99, available with EA Play if you're gonna sign up for that to play, I don't know, the Dead Space remake. That's a pretty good one. Wild Hearts is on there as well. Titanfall 2 is a great game. Unfortunately, EA kind of shot themselves in the foot for some reason by releasing this game right around the same time as Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. It was a few months after Overwatch 1, and whoever knows why, their own published Battlefield 1, like, figure that one out. But nonetheless, Titanfall 2 was a fantastic game. You guys know me, I love me some giant robots, and Titanfall 2 also added a campaign component that was a rather good campaign, and hopefully Respawn does more with Titanfall as a franchise. It seems like, they're pretty busy with a lot of projects under their umbrella, but nonetheless, Titanfall 2 is quite good at this price point. Just from a single-player standpoint, I would say it's worth the $4. Next up, we got Rayman Legends, 80% off for $3.99. You guys know I talk about this game ad nauseum. If you're remotely a fan of platformers, this is a must-play, a franchise that Ubisoft, unfortunately, just does not do enough with. It is a great series, a great platformer, accessible, fantastic visual style that has just aged very gracefully as well. Like, when did Rayman Legends come out? I want to say it's been almost a decade. February of 2014. Man, we're coming up on a decade since Rayman Legends has come out. That's insane to think about, but a lot of great levels, and just a really, really well done platformer is available on Plus Extra. Next up, we got Resident Evil Revelations, 75% off for $4.99. Look, I talk ad nauseum about the Resident Evil titles. Usually it's the RE2 remake, RE4, of course, but Resident Evil Revelations is one of those games that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. It initially came out on the 3DS, and it was one of the selling points to me on the 3DS. I thought Revelations was awesome. That game on the 3DS, was very technically impressive. So when you're taking a 3DS game and you're porting it to the PlayStation 4, it's on PlayStation 3 as well, obviously you have to keep your expectations in line for what it is, but it is a nice visual bump up. It still looks pretty decent, and the game itself is a well-done Resident Evil game. Revelations came out in the time where Resident Evil really doesn't have the IP appeal that it does now. Like, Resident Evil, back when Revelations came out, was in a different realm than what it is now. Capcom did a lot to restore a lot of the goodwill attached to Resident Evil. Not like it lost all of its goodwill, but man, after Biohazard Village and the remakes, they've done a fantastic job of revitalizing the series, so to speak. But Revelations is one that, again, gets lost in the shuffle. I still think it's a worthwhile game to plan for $5. Definitely a good buy. Next up, we got .hack GU Last Recode, 90% off for $4.99. You guys know me, if you've been following this channel, I love me some .hack, another franchise that CyberConnect 2, come on guys, bring it back, bring it back. .hack GU started on the PS2. Back in the day, it was released in these volumes that came out, which honestly was like, it was robbing people. It robbed me, I know that, because they would come out, I think, at $40 a pop, and you would have to buy these games, and they released within like 6 months, I want to say, from one another. But that's not the case with Last Recode. Last Recode compiles all 3 games, and you get a 4th smaller episode, and you get that for $4.99. Back in the day, guys, we spent $120 or something like that to play volumes 1 through 3, and now $4.99 for an enhanced version. I mean, that's kind of how things work, but still wild to think about. I think Haseo's a great main character with some really solid character development, and he's voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. Obviously, like, he voices like everybody. Peter Parker, of course, Sasuke from Naruto, and like, you just get total Sasuke vibes from Haseo as well. So, you know, good game and a solid cast of characters. Shows its age for sure, but if you're into JRPGs, a worthwhile collection to go through here. Next up, we got Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition, 85% off for $4.49. Another game I talk incessantly about. Sleeping Dogs is awesome, guys. We'll probably never get a sequel to it, which is such a shame to think about, just because Sleeping Dogs is a great game, and I feel like the clamor is there. I'm not saying it's got like Dragon's Dogma into Dragon's Dogma 2 clamor, but I feel like people want a Sleeping Dogs 2, and it would do really well. Nonetheless, if you never played it, it's a great game. A lot of people say it's GTA in Hong Kong. It's not really that. It's got that crime aspect in an open world, but it's got more of a focus on its hand-to-hand combat and more of a contained open world as well. Good story, great main character. Definitive Edition gets you a lot of bonus content as well for $4.50. Great pickup here. Next up, we got Prototype, $4.49 on this, 85% off. Now, this game initially came out on the PlayStation 3 in June of 2009. Why do I make an emphasis on its release month? Well, it was a crazy time back in the early summer of 2009 when Prototype and Infamous were coming out. If you're around my age or a little bit older and you were online during that time, you guys know there was a big debate on what was gonna be the better superhero game. It was fun, like, seeing all of that dialogue back and forth. I think without a doubt Infamous ended up being the stronger game, but Prototype was pretty good as well. I thought Prototype did a really good job of just really embodying the chaos and the chaotic elements of being a superhero. It made you feel overpowered. Where Infamous, I don't want to say it was a little bit more grounded, but it wasn't as chaotic and hectic as Prototype. Visually, Prototype, that was one of the big deterring factors of the game. Just did not look great as a PS3 360 title. It's fine. Like, at this point, if you're playing the game, you're playing it for the over-the-top gameplay, and I think from that standpoint, it's worthwhile to go through. $4.49, pretty good buy, and actually kind of interested. Now that Microsoft has the ownership to this IP, I could easily see them dig up Prototype as an IP and do a Prototype 3. I actually think people would be pretty excited about that, and I think that would be a pretty interesting IP for Microsoft to lean on. I don't know if they're going to do that, just something I thought I'd throw out. Next up, want to give you guys a heads up on a couple of Need for Speed games. Let's just go through all of them. Need for Speed Rivals is $3, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered is $4, and then Need for Speed Heat Deluxe Edition is $3.49. That deal on Heat Deluxe Edition is really good. Hot Pursuit is a game that I loved back in 2010. This remastered release isn't anything to write home about, but, you know, it's a good game. And then Rivals I picked up on launch on the PS4, a little after launch, actually. I remember I wanted to get it at launch with the PS4, but it was, like, sold out for whatever reason, so your boy had to get stuck with Killzone Shadowfall and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And Knack, of course. Who could forget Knack? But, yeah, Need for Speed Rivals. I enjoyed Rivals as well for $3, not bad. I would say out of these three, Heat is probably the best one to get at $3.49, but you know, all of them for these price points are pretty good. Next up, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, 75% off for $4.99, is available on PlayStation Plus Extra. You guys know I talk about the Tomb Raider games since the reboot a lot. I think these games are fantastic. I will put them, since they get compared to Uncharted so much, I would say like the Tomb Raider games since the reboot are at the level of the Uncharted games, and maybe that's a stretch to some of you guys. I would say that overall Uncharted is probably a superior franchise, but I would put like ROTR on the level of Uncharted 2, but you know, let's not get into that debate right now. Tomb Raider 2013 is very much on the shorter side. You can complete it in around 7 to 8 hours if you focus primarily on the main story, but overall, still a worthwhile game to go through, and for $5, not a bad pickup. Definitely go play ROTR and SOTR afterwards, because those games are pretty good as well. Next up, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor Game of the Year Edition, 75% off for $4.99. To me, this was one of the first truly great games of the PlayStation 4 generation. I know it was a cross-gen release. It actually like came out on PS4 and then it had a delayed release on PS3 and 360. But nonetheless, like, to me, it was a next-gen title, and great visuals, action combat was great. A more contained open world comparatively to the open worlds these days. I'm not crazy about Lord of the Rings or anything like that, but yeah, enjoyed the game. Game of the Year Edition includes some bonus content, so that's quite good. Hotline Miami, the collection, 75% off for $4.99. Gets you Hotline Miami 1 and 2. Great pickup here. Hotline Miami is one of those games that's just over-the-top chaotic action, you know, throwback visual style, great soundtrack, just a good time overall, and for $4.99 to get both 1 and 2, think that's a pretty good buy. And lastly, I do want to give a shout to GRIS, which is 75% off for $4.24. Now, this is a game that I feel like does not get enough love. It is a game that has a tremendous art style and really tackles some more somber themes, but this is one of those games that I attach to it being more of an experience rather than a game, and, you know, sometimes I think it's corny when people say, oh, gaming is an art form, this game is a showcasing game in an art form, but you know what, like, yes, I thought that was corny, like, back in the day when I was, like, a teenager, but a lot of games are an art form, and GRIS, I feel like, is one of the very shining examples of that, and yeah, for this price point, I think it's quite good. Great visual style, great presentation. $4.24 is a great buy for that. Just a little bit more of an emotional game, so keep that in mind. But that'll do it for me. Again, I feel like the holiday sale is stacked up and down with great deals, and you know, just filtering it to deals under $5, it was just pages and pages of really solid stuff. So we'll be covering all this stuff in depth, a lot to cover here. So yeah, be on the lookout for the channel with a lot of uploads as always. But that'll do it for me. Links to all of these deals in the description box below. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.